We've reached the final hour, the post trip on Nemo Nation. Take it away, Phone Master Dre.
That I can do and hand it over to the good old Dave Nemo at the Fastport Studios. There you go, Dave.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I want everybody to head over to lmta.la on the Book of Face, Trucking in LA, and then Trucking in LA over in the Grandma Insta, and then on the Twitter, now known as X, it's Trucking in LA. If you head over there, what you're going to find is the Louisiana Motor Transport Association. We always like a little home cooking over here, a little bit of that gumbo. It kind of goes. By the way, there is a lot of different ways you can make a living as a truck driver in the state of Louisiana. Good God Almighty, man! From the simple act of hauling things from one place to another to doing some really down and dirty work in the bayou parishes. Lots of groovy stuff. And with that in mind, I'm gonna turn this over to Dave and let him welcome a friend of the show.
Renee Amar, she is the executive director of the LMTA. Good morning, Renee.
Good morning, guys. How's it going over there?
Fantastic. We're going to talk about industry issues here, but Jimmy just said something that made me want to ask you, what did you cook for Thanksgiving?
Oh, goodness. We did everything. My husband fried a turkey.
Okay.
And then I cooked 6 sides, essentially. So we do everything from your run-of-the-mill stuffing to green bean casserole, sweet potatoes, you name it, deviled eggs. I don't think you can have Thanksgiving without deviled eggs. The little different twist we add to it is that instead of paprika that you sprinkle on the top, we do cayenne pepper, and then we do put a little bit of fresh sliced jalapeno in those.
Deviled eggs with a capital D.
We like our spicy stuff down here. So
when I was you just reminded me of something that this does not relate in any way. But when I was in high school, we all smoked cigarettes because everybody on television smoked. Our parents, the world smoked, right? So we had to smoke, and we would have our pack of cigarettes. Well, we always had an extra pack of cigarettes. Picayune Peak Tobacco from North Louisiana. Are you familiar with Picayune cigarettes?
No.
Oh, my God. Okay, it's like cigarettes on steroids and then some. In other words, you hand somebody a Picayune, they will never ask you for not only a cigarette, they'll never ask you for anything, ever. They could be in the desert and they wouldn't ask you for a drink of water. And
that's crazy. So were they out of Picayune, Mississippi?
No, they were Louisiana. It was a Louisiana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look that up.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if they make them anymore. The tobacco was called Pique, Pique. How I remember that, I don't know. But when you said putting cayenne on those deviled eggs, I'm just saying, oh yeah, I won't eat no more deviled eggs at Renee's house.
That's right. I'll bring you the ones with just the paprika on it.
What about melitons, or as they say, melitons? Do you do melitons, the old prickly pears?
We do not. No, we don't do anything probably that people think of as traditional, dirty rice, things like that.
Yeah, okay.
Do regular run-of-the-mill Thanksgiving side.
Yeah, that dirty rice thing, years ago, that used to be just New Orleans, and then it became Louisiana. And now a lot of folks around the country know what dirty rice is all of a sudden. That's funny.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
To me, when you have dirty rice, my mom used to do them with a little small shrimp in them.
Oh, yeah.
But also you have to have creamed corn with it.
Oh, okay.
You can't eat dirty rice without creamed corn. Now, for Christmas, I will make a gumbo. And so we'll eat on that for a couple of days. And my husband has kind of veered to liking the chicken and sausage. So.
Oh my God, I'm a gumbo fanatic. My wife everybody makes a different gumbo. So when you say,
yep.
This is the best gumbo. Yeah, that's the best gumbo you've made, but this is the best gumbo she's made, and they are both the best. Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. My husband likes a really, really dark roux, and mine is probably somewhere a little more in the middle. And so, exactly to your point, everybody has, their own taste buds where they like different things. So.
Yeah.
Okra. I just kind of figured out his.
One more question, then we'll get into trucking. Here we got to do the trucking thing. Okra, yes or no?
Oh, absolutely.
There
Tons
you go.
of it.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic.
The slimier, the better.
I love it, love it, love it. So you at home right now?
I am. I am. I'm heading to Lake Charles tonight. We have a compliance seminar tomorrow, and so excited to be with those folks to, do a deep dive into safety, ironically.
Ironically, yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
The top 10 industry issues are out now. Does Louisiana have its own list?
We sure do, Dave,
Okay.
and it is interesting. If you look at the American Transportation Research Institute, ATRI's list,
Hmm.
right, that those fine folks release every year around the same time, their list differs a little bit of ours, in true Cajun form, right? We always like to be a little bit different. And what's interesting, I really wanted to talk a little bit today about some of the issues that weren't in the, top three or so, but our number one issue that you and I have talked about is lawsuit abuse,
Hmm.
followed obviously very closely by the cost of insurance. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyone
And that's
who,
hand in glove, which is the hand, which is the
yeah,
glove on any given day. But yeah.
yeah, chicken and the egg,
Hmm. Hmm.
exactly. Yeah, still trying to figure that out. And so I, in fact, had an email from a gentleman yesterday asking about membership and kind of detailing his stories and his woes about the insurance issues that they're having. So if you're an independent contractor and owner operator, or if you're a company owner, that cuts across both lines when you are housed in the state of Louisiana. It impacts people that drive their cars. It impacts the houses, especially y'all are out of the New Orleans area, the homeowners insurance that we have to purchase for our homes. And so it really just cuts across every sector and facet of our lives.
It's interesting. Excuse me, Renee. It's interesting because Rebecca Brewster was on with us a couple of hours ago this morning, and we've done a series, a 30-minute series called Atri on the Air with her for too many years to remember. And she's going to join us for like 10 minutes every Monday morning on Nemo Nation. And she brought in the New Jersey and the Virginia lists.
Okay.
And it's interesting that lawsuit abuse reform was number 3 on the Virginia list, and it's number 5 on the New Jersey list. But they're on both lists. Some states
had
have
no
things,
idea.
yeah, some states have things that are not on any other list, like cargo
Yep.
theft is in New Jersey on the list at number 2, but it's not even on the Virginia list at all. So the states, so to the Atri point, yeah, you got this national thing, and then you have the states, and you have to qualify. You have to get enough responses to qualify for the statewide list. But boy, that really gets down to the nitty gritty, doesn't it? To where you can really localize a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that is fascinating. Cargo theft didn't even clock in on our list at all.
Isn't that
But
something?
then,
Yeah,
yeah, that it was number 2 on their list. I think
up in New
that speaks
Jersey.
volumes. Yeah, it's probably similar to the staged accidents that would, kind of clock in on the Louisiana list maybe about 4 or 5 years ago that possibly other states weren't even aware of. That I suspicion that possibly over the next couple of years we'll start seeing some of those other issues creep up on our list as
Oh, the
well.
staged
What I thought was
accidents thing.
fascinating.
Well, I was just going to
Well,
say,
I'm sorry.
Jimmy, I'm sitting right across the desk from Jimmy Mack, and he did a super deep dive into the staged accidents thing. And that went on
Oh,
for like about a year at least, if not more.
look, that and the cargo theft
Mm-hmm.
issue, I think you could make like a Netflix series about these issues because of all the, especially with the staged accident, it ended up in the execution of a witness.
Oh, yeah.
And when my memory, like I get emotional every time I even think about that issue because it's so close to, those are my members that were involved in those accidents that, have now had to take their cases to federal courts, and so it's deeply disturbing what's going on there, but also in the cargo theft realm, people kind of think about this like You go break the seal, you open the back. But what they don't realize now is that these are sophisticated rings of criminals that are operating largely out of other countries that are like 2, 3, 4 deep in, because a lot of people don't understand how cargo moves, right? They think that one truck goes to, say a shipyard and picks up something and delivers it to the end, but that's not really how cargo moves in the U.S. in this day and age. And so what's fascinating to me is that it's all these criminal rings from outside of the country. We've kind of raised this as a national issue that really needs to be dealt with, but it's become incredibly hard for them to wrap their arms around it and try to stop it.
Hey, Jimmy Mack here, by the way, in case you couldn't tell from the distinct change in the timbre of voice.
Who dat?
Who dat? One of the things also about that whole thing, the way they stopped it, and please correct me if I get this wrong, and what people need to understand, the sophistication of that organization, meaning both the criminal element involved in it and seemingly legitimate law firms who were part of that intricate network. The only way they were finally able to stop them was they made a bet that the accidents would not be big enough in regards to large-scale stuff, that they would nickel and dime their way to a fortune. They got greedy and they got stupid. But the only way they got stopped was a joint task force. It wasn't just the NOPD. It wasn't just the state police. It wasn't just the U.S. Attorney's Office. And it wasn't even just the FBI. It was also you guys and a whole bunch of other people in the industry working together as a coalition that really brought that thing to a final end. And it kind of reminds people the breadth of the criminal organizations that are often targeting the industry need to be met with partners and coalitions that organizations like you guys, it's part of what you guys do. You form coalitions to actually not only advance the needs of your members, but to also keep the highway safe for the flow of goods and services, right?
And Jimmy, I would like to point out two things. A, like to hone in on that point you made, but also B, the people that we don't talk about in this criminal ring of the staged accidents are the physicians. We have not gotten to the point where they have indicted any of the doctors, and if you think the medical community was not involved in these staged accidents, aren't still involved in some of the fraudulent activities that are going on when we get involved in accidents or when we don't get involved in accidents. They've gotten down to the legal level, which I think is your point of the sophistication of it. These weren't low-level criminals like, picking pockets on the street. This was insurance fraud, straight up, and it ended up with the execution, the murder of a witness.
Oh, it was
but
crazy.
There were absolutely doctors involved. And yes, it was because for us on the state level, we have the Department of Insurance, the Attorney General's office, and state police all trying to figure this out. But yeah, it's like a trucker and his insurance said, I've maybe seen this name before in a case against us. And that was part of why it took a while, is because these things developed over the years. But yeah, it took a lot of different people involved on the task force to finally figure out what was going on there.
And by the way, one final quick comment on this, unless Renee wants to expand upon it. By the way, Renee, who joins us this morning, is executive director of the Louisiana Motor Transport Association. One of the coolest things is that the real good guys in this story are the carriers and their investigators who actually presented this information to law enforcement. This was not actually, if I remember correctly, the impetus that got the ball rolling was a couple of your members, a couple of people said, wait a minute. This tune has played itself out before in another situation. And they were able to hand off a lot of really good investigative work over to the task force, who then went to work. So it actually gets started with the industry looking out for itself, correct?
And Jimmy, if I could make one more point about this before we move on, but there's video that one of my members plays at the legislature just to show them it's hard for people to wrap their mind around the fact that this is going on. But the truck driver, right? This impacts the truck driver every day when they're on the road. I've got a member that says that my drivers don't leave the shop every day thinking about getting in an accident. the drivers are human beings just like everybody else. They just want to go out, make a decent living, deliver their cargo. They want to go back home and get in their own beds and spend time with their own families. They don't want to be involved in these rings. They don't want to be involved in accidents on the road. And so you can hear the driver when these people are coming up on the interstate in New Orleans on 10, like, intentionally hit him, and the words that come out of his mouth, because he knows the repercussions of that for a driver. And so to me, it's just that the devastating domino impact of all the people that this affected and the callousness of these people that they could give two cruds about anybody else that they impacted so long as they filled their pockets.
Renee, just on kind of a fun note, I have been working for the better part of a year, and if I had any more time, I'd be finished it already with a series of horror stories that are all set around the trucking industry, and each one of them depends upon one of the challenges truckers are facing, from parking to ELDs to a whole bunch of other stuff. The first one is an insurance scam, and what unravels the insurance scam in that story is a driver with a perfect score is targeted, and he is so infuriated by what has happened, he actually is the precipitating incident that leads to the investigation, because that's what you're alluding to here. At some point, you target somebody who takes real pride in their work, and they are going to be good gosh darned if they are going to get pushed around like that. It's a great point that you made. It has an impact on the safe driving records of people who deserve better than that in regards to treatment on the road. Well said, by the way.
And I love the fact that the other side loves to point out that we have, laws on the books to stop fraud. But the reality is that my carriers and my owner-operators, while that investigation is going on, they are paying the escalating insurance premiums. No one goes back once we realize that that was fraud and pays them back for their premiums from 2 or 3 years ago. No one does that. There's no real recovery for us in this situation. It has to be stopped.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, is the fact that nobody, it's like it's one of those things, is the bell is unrung, the bell can't be unrung. And that great line from Absence of Malice says, you didn't do anything wrong here, and I can talk myself blue in the face trying to clear you, and it just won't matter. Because that's the thing at the end of the day. The stink gets on you, and regardless of what you've done, nobody can redeem you at that point. I'm going to turn this back over to Dave. He's got a couple of questions as well.
Oh, well, thank you, Jimmy Mack. But yeah, I had to kind of do that little side trip there because Jim had really immersed himself in all of that and became a very leading voice on getting the news out and getting accurate news out on that, because it was, it's very it's totally confusing. I mean, these, as you say, these aren't just a bunch of dumb crooks out there doing this. This was highly and people who weren't even criminals became criminals.
That's right.
And maybe unintentionally, but there they are in many cases.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I've been dying to ask a lot of people this question, and we don't get a chance to do it because we don't normally have you guys on long enough to do this. Where do you get your news from? I mean, and I'm not just asking trucking news, but how do you keep up with current events? Where do you kind of do your digging when you want to keep up with what's going on? Because a lot of our listeners have so many options these days. That's the problem. Too many options. We always figure that smart people, will know where to go. Where do you point people towards?
I think it depends on the issue. Generally, I will just scroll and, click on different sources and try to read, especially local. We have newspapers here in Louisiana that I will dig into some of their articles. But if I were, let's just say, truck parking, I would go to the source of, find what is there a research institute like we have that is connected to that. And typically when I do media interviews, this is what I need to do, right? If I'm going to do a deep dive on a specific issue, I go find that person that's got an expert, voice in that arena, and I will go do a deep dive on their research. And then, you kind of go find the news articles, because I don't necessarily always trust, what news articles say. I feel like you need to read 3 or 4 different sources. And part of that is it's not like I don't mean to bang on the news sources, but I was at a national organization when Obamacare was being passed, and it was a lobbying forum for small business. And the amount of reporters that called me wanting me to educate them on that 1,600-page bill, it was just hard for them to understand, right? And so for them to synthesize an issue and write a 300-page article on it that everybody's going to trust, it's hard for them to do sometimes.
I'm going to make you laugh, by the way, as a good Louisianian yourself. You'll dig where my dad's coming from. My dad says that all Louisiana newspapers are terrific, some for getting the news and some for eating crawfish. And that's about the way to kind of look at it. I've been holding on to that one for a long time. I waited for somebody to share it with.
For the moment.
Yeah, and I figured with you here, it's the best place to get it. We don't have a lot of time left. Matter of fact, we've gone past our time, but we just love your company so much. In regards to what is coming up over the next month, what are you keeping a really close eye on, both in the local legislature? Is there anything happening on a really hyper-local level, provincial level, that you're keeping a close eye on?
We are not doing anything right now. We're obviously in holiday season like everyone else. But come January, we'll start getting ramped up for our legislative session next year. And I will still I've got some other issues that we need to deal with. We've got some local governments that are starting their own permitting process, obviously causing issues for our members. But I will still have a huge hyper focus on this insurance lawsuit abuse issue that has not gone away for our commercial, our truckers in the state of Louisiana. And until we feel like it's fixed, I'm going to continue to beat that drum.
By the way, Mr. B himself on our chat says, my grandmother had a saying that a dog will eat wet okra if it gets hungry enough. That was his contribution to this conversation. Thank you, Mr. B himself, by the way. Well said.
How about try frying the okra?
Yeah, how about the best way to remove the slimy feeling from okra, guys, is either put it in a pot with everything else or fry it. That's a really good idea, by the way.
Yeah,
always an effective thing.
Awesome.
Renee, we love having you. Dave's got one more question
No, I got to circle back to
He's
the
turned
real...
to Columbo, by the way. Just got one more question for you, Renee.
The important topics of this morning. We've talked about the main courses and the dishes and the fried turkey and the okra gumbo. What's the pie? What is the pie with coffee that finishes off your Thanksgiving?
Hands down, no question, pecan pie.
I knew you were going to say pecan or pumpkin, but then I knew pecan. Yeah,
So dig this, guys. So we had this big Thanksgiving dinner at our house. What we do as a family so big, Renee, you'll dig this as a Louisianian. We have actually 5 different houses with 25 or more people at each one of the houses. And then everybody gets together for a dessert later on. There was a pecan pie, spectacular pecan pie, but everybody murdered everything else. And so nobody wanted to take the pecan pie home, not because it was disgusting, but because it was all these people who were like, if you put that thing in my house, it's going to be gone in 45 minutes, and I'm going to eat the majority of it. With pecan pie, do you find that you need to get it off your plate and into somebody else's hands? Or are you like one of those people like me where it's like, I go to the store and buy my own can of whipped cream? I'm not kidding. And I sit there. Yeah, me too. I sit there at the table like, don't you come near me. And just fill up a plate with whipped cream and pecan pie. Renee, we love you. Please promise us you'll come back at some point.
Anytime. I appreciate you guys, and happy holidays if I don't get to talk to y'all before the end of the year.
LMTA.LA. Thank you, Renee. I couldn't ask for a more Louisiana name, by the way.
I know.
I mean, just the best person in the world. We love everybody over here. Phone Master Dre is on the case. We got a great guest coming up in the next half hour, Erica Denny. By the way, talk about, regional whiplash here. You guys know who that is. She's the freight planner, freight mobility and safety branch of the Colorado Department of Transportation. Go to freight.colorado.gov or freightcotrip.org. Both take you, by the way, to the same place.
You can't get further away from where Erica is in Denver and where we are in New Orleans. We're below sea level and they're 2 miles above sea level.
Speaking of gumbo, you can. It is very, very. By the way, I can make good red beans and rice above sea level. It is a pain in the ass to make good gumbo or good red beans and rice above sea level. It can be done, but man, it's a different thing. You know why, of course, bagels taste better in New York than they do here, right?
It's the water.
It's the water. It is absolutely the water. And the reason why gumbo and all that stuff is better down here, it's the boil.
Mm-hmm.
It's the boil. It's not just the heat, it's the stupidity. Nemo Nation continues after the other side of this break, by the way. I want everybody to go to truckdown.com. They've been doing it for 50 years. They've been doing 50 years, 1997. Sorry, I'm doing 50 years
It'll
stuff
be
here.
50 years
50
in a
states,
few hours.
50 states, 8 provinces. They get your truck out of the ditch and they get you back on the road. What they basically do is if you go to that website and download the app, what you'll get is if you break down, if you have service problems, it will tell you the nearest service provider that you can find, as opposed to having to go 80, 100, 500 miles down the road until you can get taken care of. That's what truckdown.com does. Big thanks to them. Also, big thanks to our friends at Fastport. BB the King is over on the chat, by the way, to say good morning. Fastport.org or fastport.com or nationalapprenticeship.org. They can basically help you get vet ready. They can also help you with apprentice programs. They can help you with the onboarding process. A lot of their good work that we're going to be honoring them with next week is about helping service veterans make the transition from working for their country to working for the economy. Hope you guys can check that out as well, too. That story, by the way, that insurance scam on the I-10 corridor, she's absolutely right. They wouldn't come out and say why he had been murdered at first, because he was kind of a shady character, but he's also a witness. Mm-hmm. He was looking down the barrel of life in prison because it was a frame-up. They're trying to make it look like that he was the guy who was completely responsible for everything, and he wasn't having any part of that. And he was ready to name names. And the problem was he was going to name names all the way up into some really big legal circles in the city of New Orleans in particular, over in Jefferson Parish. In case you guys have never been there, I've always said that if you ever want to know what New Orleans was like in the 70s, head on out to Jefferson Parish. What they did was the character hasn't changed. The buildings have, and a lot of those characters made their way out there. By the way,
yeah, you're right.
We have to take Dre. He's never been to Dorignac's, by the way. We've got to take Dre to Dorignac's one day. Stick in town a little bit longer one day, Dre, and I'll take you to the best liquor store that also happens to be a grocery store. We'll be back on the other side of this. Nemo Nation continues after the break.